Hi and welcome to Vintage Doll Collector. Today I'm going to be repairing this Danny O'Day ventriloquist doll made by the Juro Novelty Co in the 1950s. The problem with Danny, as with most of these ventriloquist dolls, is that his mouth no longer opens and closes. It works by a pull string in the back, which is attached to a rubber band, and the problem is the rubber band disintegrates over time and he's stuck with his mouth open. If you look inside his mouth here, you can see there's a little hook at the back of his tongue. That's where the elastic hooks onto. So all we're going to do is take his head off and fix the elastic and then put it back on. His head is held onto his body just with a piece of wire here that's threaded through a casing. So I just got to snip the wire and then I can get it off. Okay, now we can see inside his head the mechanism. The pull string is attached to the hook that's at the back of his tongue, and there's the elastic, or what's left of it, that's all hard and brittle, and the elastic goes from the hook at the back of his tongue to the hook that's on the back of his neck. So what I'm going to do is take one of my stringing elastics, and what I do, when you get them, I got these from Doll's Part, and they're really wide, so what I usually do is I cut them in half lengthwise with a pair of small sharp scissors all the way around, and then I get two rubber bands out of one. And that's not just because I'm a frugal Yankee, but because they're really thick, they don't stretch very well. If I cut them down to size, there's a little bit more stretchiness there. So anyway, we're going to hook the elastic onto one hook. Whoops, there goes the string. Put that back on. Going to hook the elastic onto one end and then over the other hook. Now, it didn't work. His mouth is still open. Now, it seems to me the problem here is the angle from one hook to the other. It's going back instead of down. I don't know how he could have possibly worked in the first place with that hook in that spot. But I think if I move the hook to the front, so I'll take the hook out, try to put it on the front, but the problem is it won't go because the front of his neck doesn't have that notch in it like the back does. So it won't go on. You know, it's cut out there. So I need to put probably not that big of a notch, but at least a little bit of a notch in the front. So here's my X-Acto knife. Here's the part where I cut my thumb off. Okay, I'll take my X-Acto knife and you just cut a little bit of the vinyl out of the front. Now give that a try. And now the hook goes on. Okay, alright, let's see if we can try this again. Got the hook on one side and stretch the elastic onto the front. Now the elastic isn't tight, but it doesn't matter as long as it keeps his mouth shut. And it looks pretty good. Check it out. He works. He works pretty good, actually. Okay. So now I've got to put his head back on his body. Okay, gotta get the old wire out that was holding his head on in the first place. That was probably that might have been replaced at some point. I'm going to use a cable tie, which you can get at any hardware store. And what I've got to do is slip it into the casing that's around the neck, which can be tricky sometimes. In this case, the cloth body, the neck is kind of damaged. You can see where there looks like there was a repair at one point. But there's holes. See, whoops, there comes the cable tie poking out the hole. See if we can get that going back in the right direction. Okay, got the other end out. And okay, get the stuffing back in, his head back on. Watch out for that hook. Fit it into the groove, fit the cable tie into the groove there. And put it through the slot, pull it tight. As you can see, doesn't quite cover the whole thing up, but that's okay. I'm more concerned with getting his mouth to work again and the head back on. If I was going to keep him, I probably would repair the casing part. Anyway, snip the extra off, and he's all ready to get dressed again. And there he is. All right, he looks pretty good, doesn't he? All right, say goodbye to the people, Danny. Bye to the people, Danny. I have no idea what Danny O'Day is supposed to sound like, do you? Anyway, thanks for joining me today. If you'd like to see more of my videos, please click on the logo in the lower right corner to subscribe. And see you next time.